Welcome to This Explainer, where we're going to demystify the absolute foundations of Philippine civil law. Have you ever wondered how invisible rules silently dictate practically every aspect of your daily life? Well, today, we're transforming those dense statutory articles into a clear, straightforward guide on exactly how the law shapes your reality. We're going to break down all that heavy legal jargon into concepts you can actually wrap your head around.
Here is our roadmap for today. We'll be hitting 1. The rules of compliance. 2. Changing and breaking laws. 3. Measuring time and territory. 4. Crossing borders with the nationality theory. And finally, 5. Decoding the Latin doctrines.
Okay, let's jump right into Section 1, the rules of compliance. This is where we establish the absolute baseline.
So, the magic number here is 15. Under Article 2 of the Civil Code, laws take effect exactly 15 days after they finish getting published in the Official Gazette or a newspaper of general circulation, unless the law specifically says otherwise. Now, this isn't just some random arbitrary timeline. It's designed to give the public fair warning. A law simply cannot be passed in secret and enforced on you the very next day. It requires a public broadcast, and that 15-day window, that is your crucial buffer between a law being written and a law actively governing your actions.
But once that 15-day window closes, things get strict. Article 3 states, ignorance of the law excuses no one from compliance therewith. Notice how incredibly absolute that is? It explicitly dictates that you can never, ever use a lack of knowledge as an excuse for breaking the rules. You can't just throw your hands up and say, hey, I didn't know. Think about it. If this rule didn't exist, anyone could bypass legal consequences just by playing dumb, and the entire legal system would literally collapse into chaos. So once published, you are officially expected to know the rules.
Moving right along to Section 2, changing and breaking laws. Let's look at retroactivity and repeal.
These articles brilliantly illustrate the strict boundaries of our legal playing field. First up, Article 4 establishes that laws generally look forward, not backward. They have absolutely no retroactive effect unless the law states otherwise. Then, Article 5 warns us that acts against mandatory or prohibitory laws are completely void. You simply can't do them unless specifically authorized. Article 6, that one gives you the power to waive your rights, but only if doing so doesn't violate public policy or hurt a third person. Finally, Article 7 tells us that old laws are only repealed by new laws or when declared unconstitutional by the courts. But quick side note, keep the operative fact doctrine in mind. That means even if a law is later declared unconstitutional, the real-world effects it produced before that declaration might still be recognized, just in the interest of fairness.
And it's really important to realize that the law isn't just what's printed in the statute books. Article 8 confirms that when courts make judicial decisions that apply or interpret these laws or the Constitution, those decisions aren't just one-off rulings for a specific case. They are effectively woven directly into the fabric of the Philippine legal system itself. How the courts apply those words to real-life situations becomes the law of the land.
Section 3. Measuring time and territory. How the law precisely handles periods and boundaries.
You see, the law absolutely hates guesswork. Under Article 13 of the Civil Code, which is perfectly echoed in Section 31 of the Revised Administrative Code of 1987, legal deadlines are mathematical. When a legal document says a year, it means exactly 365 days. No exceptions. A month, that means exactly 30 days, unless a specific month like, say, March is named. Then you count its actual days. Days are a strict 24 hours, and nights are measured from sunset to sunrise. And here's the absolutely crucial part. When calculating these legal periods, you always exclude the first day and include the last. This rigid approach ensures everyone is on exactly the same page when a major deadline is looming. Now, what about geography? Article 14 establishes the territoriality of penal laws, and the boundaries are strictly enforced. Whether you are a citizen who's lived there your whole life or just a foreign tourist passing through for the weekend, Philippine penal laws apply to you while you are physically standing on Philippine soil. This is subject only to public international law and specific treaty stipulations. Simply put, if you are in the territory, you play by the territory's rules regarding public security and safety.
Which perfectly brings us to Section 4, crossing borders, focusing specifically on the nationality theory. Think of your legal identity as an invisible backpack that you carry around the globe.
According to Article 15, which we call Lex Nationali, or the nationality theory, Philippine family law follows you literally wherever you go. Your family rights, your duties, your legal status, and your legal capacity are securely tied to your passport, not your physical location. So a Filipino citizen living in Paris, Tokyo, or New York is still fundamentally bound by Philippine laws regarding their legal capacity and family duties.
Finally, Section 5, Decoding the Latin Doctrines. Let's resolve some international conflict of laws.
When navigating international law, you are definitely going to run into competing doctrines. On one hand, we have Article 16, Lex Res Citae, which states that real and personal property are governed by the law of the country where the property is actually located. On the other hand, we have Article 17, Lex Loci Contractus, meaning contracts are governed by the laws of the country where they were executed. So what happens when they clash? Here is the critical takeaway. If there's a conflict involving property, the rule of Lex Res Citae, where the property sits, actually prevails over the rule regarding where a contract about that property was signed.
Moving on to marriages, we have Lex Loci Celebrationis. This is a pretty straightforward one. It just means that the extrinsic validity of a marriage, meaning how it is formally celebrated, is governed by the law of the place where that celebration happened. If a marriage is solemnized outside the Philippines, completely follows the local laws of that foreign country and is valid there. It is generally recognized as perfectly valid back in the Philippines too.
Now, in direct contrast to the nationality theory we discussed a minute ago, we have Lex Domicilii, or the domiciliary theory. This doctrine posits that a person's personal status and rights are governed by the law of their domicile, which is the place of their habitual residence. So while some countries look at your passport to determine your legal status, countries applying the domiciliary theory care much more about where you actually unpack your bags and live day to day.
Let's rapid-fire a little more legal vocabulary for some different scenarios. Lex fori refers simply to the law of the forum, meaning the specific court where a case is actually filed. Lex loci delicti is crucial for criminal and civil wrongs. It's the law of the place where a crime or a tort was committed, which designates who has jurisdiction over safety liability. And finally, lex loci solutionis refers to the law of the place where a contract is actually supposed to be performed, which, as we know, might be entirely different from where it was signed.
So what happens when these international legal systems get stuck in an endless loop? Imagine a succession issue where country A applies the domiciliary theory, looking at where the person lived, while country B applies the nationality theory, looking at citizenship. They end up endlessly pointing fingers at each other's laws. When systems bounce an issue back and forth like a ping-pong ball, courts step in and break the tie using the Renvoi doctrine. Renvoi literally translates to referring back, and courts use this process to finally put an end to the loop and determine which country's law ultimately applies.
We have covered some absolute foundations today, from that strict 15-day publication rule to the complex Latin doctrines that resolve global legal disputes. Knowing that ignorance is never an excuse and that either your passport or your habitual residence constantly dictates your legal reality, which law truly governs your most important assets and relationships right now? Are you entirely sure? I'll leave you with that vital question to reflect on. Thank you so much for joining this explainer, and keep questioning the rules that shape your world.